How can we get enough sleep and still wake up early? The answer is simple: go to bed earlier. Going to bed at 10 p.m. and waking up at 5 a.m. gets you a solid 7 hours. Try it. If you get up and get out of bed at 4:55, a vast majority of the world is still sleeping. You aren't. You are getting up after it. The world is yours when you are up before the enemy. There is no traffic. The gym is empty. There is no one to distract you or call you or send you some stupid text about something you don't care about. It's just you. So go to bed early and wake up early. People constantly ask me for the secret of getting up early. I tell them it's simple. Set your alarm clock and get out of bed when it goes off. That's it. Is it easy? No. Everyone likes that warm bed. Everyone needs just 5 more minutes of slumber in the morning. So they hit snooze, they roll over, they go back to sleep. No. Get up and get going. And one thing that will help you do that is going to bed earlier, which can be at least as hard, if not harder, than waking up. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. Welcome to the Thomas Hunt Show. We're just doing an early morning show, cover a little bit with what's going on in the news, and just keep you up to date on Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is $8,750, up 0.25% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 8,750, a high of 8,875, and a low of 8,687. That's $1 for 11,443 Satoshis. Checking out our top story, Joe Biden upset the political world yesterday, taking down Bernie Sanders, winning 382 delegates above Sanders' 321. As you can see from the map, Biden took over the South after winning the South Carolina primary. He won majorly in Virginia, North Carolina. South Carolina already won, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Minnesota, thanks to Klobuchar, and they're even saying now, I just woke up reading this news here, he has won Texas, perhaps thanks to Beto. For you guys who have been watching the news, it's been interesting. They've been putting out a very strong "don't let Bernie Sanders win" vibe. There's a lot of fears that Sanders is too far to the left. His ideas are too pie in the sky, and that he would lose to Donald Trump. So once again, if you're keeping score, we did this last time too. In 2016, they were worried that Sanders was too far to the left, and the superdelegates stepped in and won the Democratic primary for Hillary Clinton, again choosing to go with the moderate. So we're seeing this again. They're going to try it again. They're going to try running the moderate against the Trump. Trump, of course, very extreme in his own way. Maybe a fair battle would be Bernie, very extreme, versus Trump, very extreme, but I don't think that's what we're going to get to see. We're going to get to see Biden versus Trump. I don't think Bloomberg will run as an independent, though he's probably questioning why he spent $500 million to not win the Democratic primary, as you can see from this kind of mocking chart. The only state, and it's not really a state, that Bloomberg won is American Samoa. So not impressive for American Samoa. So checking that out. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Zazaza says he sent Lightning to Tallycoin yesterday, but didn't use a fundraiser. Just used the main QR. I think it went through, but never showed up on Tally. Not sure what the main QR is. I assume it's one of the Tally coins, so presumably it went there. You can copy and paste that, check it on the Bitcoin network. And thanks so much for the donation. I'm sure it worked somehow. So don't worry about it. But thank you. Jeremy asks, how will Biden survive Corona? And it is a major problem if you think about the presidential candidates on both sides, Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, both elderly gentlemen moving around from place to place. In the past, presumably shaking a lot of hands. I'm not sure they're doing that anymore. But even getting next to somebody for a selfie, they could very easily cough on you. So I don't know what he's going to do. Of course, there's been the rumors, it was just on my little Amazon alarm clock again, that the Pope is unwell and not attending meetings. I hope the Pope doesn't have coronavirus. Same thing for Biden, and even same thing for Trump. Let's be fair here. I don't want anybody to be sick. And that's why it's such a scary, scary virus like the Black Plague. Happening in slow motion, lots of times to watch it, way too much information out there and not necessarily helpful. There's not much you can do. We're probably all going to get it. Not happy about that. That's probably what it is. So we've got major news in Bitcoin. As Hartej says on his Twitter account, today is a monumental day for crypto in India. The Indian Supreme Court has lifted the RBI ban on trading cryptocurrency. And as Hartej says, congratulations to those who spent years of painstaking effort towards this cause. This has always been a surprise that India would not be in favor of Bitcoin and not in favor of cryptocurrency trading. In many other ways, India, the world's largest democracy, well ahead of the U.S. in a lot of forms, very much an up-and-coming country with a lot of new cars to be purchased and other middle-class type items that they're going to be looking for soon. So this has always seemed like an outlier, a misnomer, something that didn't make sense, and I'm glad to see it overturned. They had a 2-year ban on cryptocurrency trading that was just overturned. The Reserve Bank of India had banned cryptocurrency trading in April 2018 to curb ring fencing of the country's financial system. They also argued at the time that cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin could not be treated as currencies because they are not made of metal, do not exist in physical form, nor were they stamped by the government. So these were not great reasons for India not to allow cryptocurrency trading. And as you probably know, everyone probably kept doing it behind the scenes. But now it can come back out in front of the scenes. Bigger investors, more traditional investors presumably can get involved. The entire Indian economy can join us in Bitcoin. So this is big news. This is great news. Shout out to India and all my Indian friends. This is great news. All right, drinking a little water there. HTC's new 5G router can host a full Bitcoin node. This is kind of what we were talking about back in the days with 21.co, which later became Earn.com, which later got swallowed up by Coinbase. They had this idea they were going to put routers into toasters. They were going to put nodes into televisions, into all kinds of other ideas, lamps, heaters, coolers, anything that stays on all the time, stays plugged in. We're finally starting to see it. HTC's new 5G router. So I'm assuming this is a device that hooks you up to the new, very exciting 5G gigabyte speed cell phone network. Maybe works it better in your home, allows you to use this cell phone network as your full-time internet connection, saving you money, but destroying the ISPs we must create to destroy. But to put a Bitcoin node inside sounds cool. Obviously didn't increase the size of the device. Doesn't seem it's probably going to have a lot of heat coming out of it. Doesn't have very large fans. You can see some very small fan holes on the back of the device there. So very cool that they're supporting Bitcoin. Let's see. I don't think it's going to run an Ethereum node. That would be much harder. But it offers a private vault, allowing users a view of their holding of Bitcoin. So it also benefits the users and allows the users to use their own nodes to verify their transactions, directly putting them on the Bitcoin network. Sounds pretty cool. No pricing data was given, and the hub should hit stores in Q2. Sounds good. Checking out yesterday's comments. Everyone's favorite part of the show, yesterday's comments. We didn't get that many comments. It's always hard. People kind of comment in the chat, and then they don't come back after the show to comment. So different ways of interaction, but we're going to try to go through the chat from yesterday a little bit as well. We've got a great comment from Hastings Insurance Solutions. He says, nice new layout. Quick question, where's Max been? And we did our best to reply. Not sure. I think Max is working with Wasabi Wallet now. He seems really busy, and I think he's doing all right. So shout out to Max Hillebrand, good guy, out there working for Wasabi Wallet. Also had a similar comment a couple of days ago. I didn't answer, but I'll answer now. People asked, where is Chris Ellis? How is Chris doing? I did see Chris at the Lightning Conference in Berlin. He seemed to be in good health, good spirits. I asked him to come on a show to tell you guys the same thing, that he was in good health and good spirits. He refused to come on the show, said that he was no longer part of the internet. I found that to be very sad, very disturbing. I think the internet is the greatest communications tool ever created by humanity, and I would find myself very sad to choose to leave it. If I was forced to leave it or imprisoned or what have you, that would be similar to what he's doing to himself for reasons I don't understand. So I wish I could have Chris Ellis on here. He also said that, yeah, he's never going to be friends with me again. I'm not sure why people hold these grudges forever. We have some minor disagreements years ago, and then now all of a sudden we're never friends again. So too bad. I like Chris. I think he's great. I also like Max. I think he's great. But if they want to do more shows, we're always welcome to have them. I saw Theo's been doing some shows lately. Maybe we can get Theo back here on the World Crypto Network. I know he's doing Late Night with Theo Goodman. That sounds interesting to me. I like Theo. Checking out the chat, we were talking about encryption. How can you stop a factory floor worker from stealing the Ballet crypto codes? I haven't done my Ballet crypto wallet walkthrough yet, but Bobby Lee assured me the codes are in different factories, so the factory workers would have to have a deal with the other factory workers. Not that it's impossible, but that's what they'd have to do. It'd have to be a large, grand conspiracy to steal both sides of the keys, put them in a file, wait for the keys to fill up with money, and then drain all of the accounts. That's pretty much what everyone's afraid of with Ballet Crypto or any other wallet where the keys are pre-generated. You have to trust the person who made the keys. I like Bobby Lee. I trust him. Maybe $10, maybe $100, $1,000, $1 million. I don't have it anyway, but I wouldn't put it on a portable kind of wallet thing. So I would get the Trezor or the Ledger. I'd get the full thing. And even then, maybe if you have $1 million, buy 2 or 3 Trezors or Ledgers. Buy 2 or 3 safe deposit boxes. Why put them all in one account? We've had so many sad and tragic stories. Michael Turpin was hacked with his phone being swapped. He's suing AT&T. He's allegedly lost $25 million. Why do you have $25 million of value that you can access with your phone? For what possible reason could you ever need to spend so much money at one time? Clearly a tactical error on his part. Similarly, I heard the same story about Jared McKenna, a famous owner of 20 Mission in San Francisco, the great hacker space and working space there. Same kind of thing. He got SIM jacked. They took $20 million. I don't know why he had $20 million accessible on his phone, but he did, and it's gone. And I heard, at least in his case, he had severe stress afterwards, had to take heart attack medicine. And you can imagine, as bad as it is for all of us who are sitting out here, oh, I wish I bought Bitcoin early. Oh, it would be worth so much. On the other side, imagine if you'd bought it early, it became worth so much, and then someone took it from you. It's almost worse, right? It's almost worse than never having it at all. I don't know. It's one of those philosophical questions you'll have to run through in your head. But thanks to everybody hanging out in the chat. We talked about some movies, talked about some TV shows. People think that The Expanse is way better than Picard. It's hard not to be better than Picard. It's a big disappointment. Just go back and watch The Next Generation. If you haven't watched Star Trek The Next Generation, check it out. That's where the real Picard is. So, hey, checking out the fundraiser. We had 29 donations towards our goal of $1 million. It's interesting to watch the number go down. I think at one time this was around 125 Bitcoins. Now it's down to 114. So even though we aren't raising much, we're getting closer to our goal thanks to the price of Bitcoin going up. We have around $800 towards our million. So if you want to donate now, $5, $10, QR code, that'd be cool. Otherwise, you can always donate by giving us a like, a share, a thumbs up, writing a comment, Twitter, maybe a blog post. Any of these things that help spread the word about the show, help us spread the word about the show. Jeremy says, what happens at 1 million? Well, at 1 million, I will stop fundraising. No more fundraising. I could do shows just for free. I wouldn't have to worry about rent, which I recently had to sell, of course, to pay rent. And I don't know about you, but if you have to sell to pay your bills and you don't really make money on your shows, then you're not really bringing in any money and you're kind of just losing Bitcoin. So I've heard other people describe this, and Roger Ver called them poor, and they did really well. Fingers crossed. Hopefully Roger Ver calls me poor soon. But we'll see. A couple more Bitcoin stories. And, of course, we do have the phone lines open here if you guys want to call us now on 1-518-600-1949. or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. We're doing kind of an early test show. I just wanted to get the news out of the way. If you guys want to call in, that's great. We can test out the Skype line, currently untested. I think it works, though. And we tested the phone line yesterday. It worked. So that was cool. New headline from Cointelegraph. Bitcoin hitting $135,000 this bull cycle is common sense. Willy Woo. Woo to Kaiser. Bitcoin could soon clinch $250,000. So that's exciting. Not exciting if you had to sell some yesterday for rent. But I hope the rest of you can hodl on, keep your jobs, save that money. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. And if your investment in cryptocurrency doubles or triples or goes up 10 times or something, at least sell your principal. At least get your initial investment out. And maybe even, I know it's a big scary thing for the hodler word and all that, but take profits. It's not a bad thing to take profits, to put some cash aside, to pay off your bills, to pay off your credit cards, maybe even pay off your mortgage. I don't know. These seem like good ideas if we go to $135,000 a coin. Also a good time to donate to Mad Bitcoins. At $135,000 a coin, I can estimate that we would need less than 10 Bitcoins to hit our $1 million goal. So a lot easier than 100 Bitcoins. But we'll see. Bitcoin price falls 1 hour after 1 hour volume spike. So we had 1 hour of very hot trading. Somebody wanted to buy or sell a lot of Bitcoin. And after that person, people, exchange, team of people left, the price of Bitcoin went back down. Hey, shout out to Daniel Carey. Welcome back to CoinDesk. A good friend of mine from San Francisco. We hung out, went to a Third Eye Blind concert in the modern times. But they're good. They're a San Francisco-based band. They're pretty cool. They said at Outside Lands that they rode their bikes down to Golden Gate Park from the Mission. Pretty cool band. But shout out to Daniel back at Coinbase, CoinDesk, doing well again. So we're just looking at the prices. Prices down a little bit after the volume left. So let's get that volume back. Uphold's new debit card lets you pay with Bitcoin, XRP, and gold. This really isn't very exciting. Coinbase, CoinDesk, all these people had debit cards back in the day, and they were kind of fun and exciting until they all got canceled. So I can assume that's going to happen again. Also, it's not really spending crypto. There was a big debate about this. I think Jimmy Song was in favor of these kind of cards, thought it was a nice way to get the final mile out there and spend that crypto. But really, you're just using the Visa network. You're just using Visa or MasterCard or whatever it is. And then at some point, instead of debiting your account of dollars or euros or whatever, they debit your account with Bitcoin, XRP, and gold. I remember Uphold used to be called Bit Reserve, and they used to have all these neat little cards, and you could put your XRP on the card, and you could put your gold on the card, and you could put your Bitcoin on a card, and it was kind of cool. But then it became Uphold, and it wasn't really as interesting as Bit Reserve. But I don't know. They've got a credit card if you're into that kind of thing. Warren Buffett loses $28 billion in 1 week. Should have kept his Bitcoin. Nice headline there from Bitcoinist. Forbes, how you can earn Bitcoin tax-free. And similar to credit card cashbacks rewards programs, but the rewards are paid out in Bitcoin. Boy, I had such a hard time getting Forbes to write about Purse back in the day. And now they're just so excited to write about Fold. I don't know what's changed. You could still save lots of money on Amazon back in the day, and you can still save lots of money now. You just have to learn how to use Bitcoin. All right, whatever. HTC launches a privacy-focused router. That's the one with its own node inside. Very cool. Trump calling for an even bigger rate cut benefits Bitcoin for this key reason. Well, they think that if the economy goes down, Bitcoin goes up. As we saw yesterday, the Fed... it wasn't even Trump, but the Federal Reserve did cut interest rates. They went from 1 to 1.25, something like that. It's a half-point basis cut, trying to keep the economy going, even with the threat and fear of the coronavirus shutdown. If you're asking me, the thing to watch for on this coronavirus shutdown is Does Apple make a new iPhone? We know right now the workers who would make this iPhone are probably at home in quarantine. We know the factories are probably closed up, locked up tight, being sprayed with that strange chemical stuff they're spraying on everything in China. They're very afraid of spreading this virus any worse than they already have. And if it stops production of the new iPhone, you have to imagine all of the projections on Apple stock are based on there being a new iPhone. If there's not a new iPhone, maybe there's not a new Samsung Galaxy phone. If there's not a new one of those, maybe people don't spend money on phones this year. If nobody spends money on phones, the whole economy goes down. Not exactly that simple, but you understand what I'm saying. This coronavirus has potential to cut off supply lanes. If there's no supply lanes, if there's no products, there's nothing to sell, there's nothing to buy. So it could be a bad problem. Germany yesterday deemed Bitcoin a financial instrument. Good stuff. Way to go, Germany. And now India following in the same footsteps. A multimillionaire makes a massive bet on Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin a currency, a commodity? Bitcoin has an identity crisis. It's actually multiple things at the same time. It's kind of a Schrodinger's cat type electron problem. The electron's a wave and it's a particle. So people are going to take a long time to figure that out because they want it to be one or the other. And it's not one or the other. It's both at the same time. Checking out the chat. Hello to everyone in the chat. Let's see. Shout out to Zaza for donating to the fundraiser again. Very cool. We are live. We're testing out this show. We don't really know what time this show is going to be. I was just kind of awake. I had the headlines. I was like, let's do a show. Unfortunately, I had to restart my computer to get OBS to work with my camera again. That was disappointing. But oh well. They think Mike Maloney thinks something is going wrong with the economy. It's about to crash. But he's been saying that for a long time. I know a lot of people are worried about the 10-year bull market, that stocks and everything in general has been going up for a long time, and that's great. But eventually there's a correction, and that could be terrifying. So it might not even be coronavirus. Coronavirus might just be the preceding event that then taps everyone into the reality that the bull market can't last forever. We'll see. I'm in cash. I have a fair amount of my very small investment portfolio that they gave me from work. I have some of it in cash, much like Warren Buffett. Not so certain of this economics that we have going on around us. At $1 million, will mad Bitcoins retire? No, but I just won't have to stress about rent and bills. I won't get up in the night worrying about how I'm going to pay the power bill or the water bill or stuff like that. So I'd like it. And you could see it both as like payment for future episodes, because I would keep making episodes, hopefully with better camera and better gear and maybe even people to help me, stuff like that. And also payment for previous episodes, because I've done a lot of what I think is good work and cool work, and it's all available for free. You can check it out. It's informative or not informative, as it may be. But yeah, I think it would be cool to be able to pay off my bills. And yep, I'm in credit card debt again. They got me. And also had to pay taxes, and taxes are coming up again. So, yeah. But who cares? Everyone has financial issues. It's not unique to me. And many other people also do hobbies like this that don't pay. So, yeah, no worries. Shout out to Dan. He says in the future you could have a community of friends and they would all run the same node, and that you trust your friends more than some unknown company. So he's talking about the HTC router, and that it could be a very easy way for people to run a home Bitcoin node. And as he's saying, depending on how it's configured, how the software is, you could very easily share your home Bitcoin node with a bunch of your friends, and then they could use your node to verify their transactions. Sounds cool. I agree with Pritam. Today in India news was great. I think it's fantastic. Welcome India to cryptocurrency trading. It was a while ago there, but my friend was running an exchange in India, if I could remember the name. I think he's at Kraken now, but he did some great stuff with the exchange there in India. Probably had to shut it down because of the legal issues. Maybe Kraken re-enters that market. Maybe they use his knowledge and inside track there to get that going. What will the dump price be after 135,000? Well, given the previous pain, you have to say at least goes down to 80, maybe 30K, maybe all the way back to 10 or 3K or $1,200. You know, it never went back to $1,200. We never checked that number again, so we always need to check it, according to the chart guys. Oh, well. If you want to hurt Trump, sell your stocks and your 401k, and let's see, they'll trash the economy before the election. It does seem like the coronavirus might take care of that. You might not have to have any human hands in that. That might just wreck it. But yeah, selling your stocks, getting into cash, probably a good idea. As Moonshine says, probably a good idea before they take them. So Dan says, yep, you'd have to trust the person running the Bitcoin node, and they love to give people debt. Jeremy's got an update from the political race. This is brand new information to me, but according to Jeremy here in the chat, Mike Bloomberg has dropped out of the presidential race. That's $500 million for one day, and he didn't even have a very good day. What a waste of money, but I guess when you have $62 billion, you can just waste it however you want. So Bloomberg, winner of the American Samoa primary, is out. Hey, we got a phone call. Hello, caller, you're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from? All right, let's see. The audio is going through the wrong thing, but I'm going to recast it. All right, one more time. Where are you from?
This is Dan from Grand Rapids. How are you?
Doing good. Audio is working.
Good. Hey, nice. Thought I'd help you test out Skype too.
Nice. What's on your mind about Bitcoin today, or politics, or anything else we're talking about?
So I guess a couple things are on my mind today. One of which is the whole Trace Mayer situation. I think there tends to be a real knee-jerk reaction, especially from Bitcoin maximalists, in that if you discuss anything or talk about the attributes of anything, all of a sudden they want to see if you weigh as much as a duck. And I think that is that's not great, because one of the questions I would have for everybody that maybe they should think about is, if you think about Mimblewimble, for example, of which I have none and have no idea what that project includes, but that's kind of the point, right? Is that we have this instant reaction of it's not Bitcoin, so it must be crap. And I understand it from the perspective of, hey, we're trying to create a financial revolution, and if all of our energy would be directed into one network, then we'd be much more successful in pushing that network forward. So therefore, if you're not pushing Bitcoin forward, you're not helping pull on the rope. So I get it from that standpoint. At the same time, I would challenge anybody who is upset about Trace Mayer to say, hey, is Mimblewimble better or worse than Bitcoin? And if you don't know the answer to that, if you can't provide a technical justification of why that is or is not true, then it's unjustified, in my opinion, to be critical of Trace Mayer. And I think it's more of a kind of a checking your privilege kind of thing, of saying, look, you can say, hey, I am not happy about Trace promoting something other than Bitcoin because I think that's going to help move the community forward and make a better world for tomorrow. But it's another thing to say, well, he's a bad person for doing that. And now that instantly wipes away all of the positives that he's done and continues to do for Bitcoin. So it just, like I say, it feels very cancel culture-ish to sort of say immediately this one thing that you say, wipes your entire reputation out, and now you're either starting at zero or you're simply no longer relevant in the Bitcoin community.
Well, and it's sad because I know other people like that in the Bitcoin space where if you do make one mistake, that they burn you forever and that they hate
Yeah,
you forever. And I don't think that's a very positive thing. We all make mistakes intentionally, otherwise, by accident. We read bad information, we believe bad information, whatever it is. All this kind of happens. I agree. I think Trace has made great contributions to the space. We shouldn't just throw the baby out with the bathwater, all these kind of things. He is, promoting Mimblewimble. He does seem to like Mimblewimble at the, give him the fair benefit of the doubt. He thinks it's a privacy coin. He likes the technology. He's into it. That's the benefit of the doubt side. The no benefit of the doubt side is he bought a lot early and he's wishing to dump them on you. And he has a big bag and he just wants more money. A lot of people
right.
say Trace has lots of money, shouldn't have to worry about that. What do you think? Sorry, Dan.
No, well, and I guess this is where I come back to, okay, if you look at those two options and then you think about it from his past behavior and actually, what he's done historically, what assumptions can we make about the motivations for his current behavior? And if it's the second of those two, if he's simply just trying to pump his bags, um, then we can just say that is all he's ever been doing for Bitcoin. He's just been trying to pump his Bitcoin bags, right? Because if his pattern of behavior is trying to help the community and push the community forward, then I think that that's probably a safe assumption to make in this case as well. Um, Also, it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? So that's the other thing that I think that people are just they don't take into consideration anymore. He could be doing a little bit of both. He could be saying, "Hey, I think this is good and interesting technology, and it's gonna make me a little money on the side. So why can't it be both things? Or why can't he just have, maybe what you think is the wrong perspective on this particular topic, and you just go, okay, I'm gonna move on from there. I don't know. I think it's a lot like curating your own news feeds nowadays. And actually, that's another thing I wanted to talk about was this whole coronavirus stuff. You know, if if your news feed is so customized to essentially agree with everything you think already, then anytime something disagrees with the opinion that you already hold, you're going to say unsubscribe. And as soon as you unsubscribe, you're essentially narrowing your opinion to a very sharp point. And you have no idea whether that is wrong or right anymore because you now have a self-feeding curated feed. And I think one of the best examples of that is I listen to Bix Weir's podcast, and with this whole coronavirus stuff, he's gone full on prepper mode, assuming that this is the collapse of civilization and you have to get, the silver in your own hands and stores will shut down and that. I mean, it's like I say, full on prepper mode. Well, it's because he's in the bubble of prepper mode, and I've gotten kind of carried away with that mentality. But then when I step back and take a look at what the news is doing and all that stuff, I start to get a more balanced perspective.
Well, I know it's easy to fall into the prepper mode, and there's nothing wrong with having some water and some dry food at your house just in
Hmm.
case. And I was at Costco, and it's also really overwhelming. I was there, and my head was kind of spinning, and I was like, "Oh no, we're all gonna die. I'm gonna be stuck in the house
Right?
forever. What am I gonna need? Like this is a crisis." So I got a giant bottle of whiskey. I got a giant bag of rice. I'm like, this is pretty good. I got whiskey. I got rice. I could live a long time. This is a pretty good deal. And then you get some water and these kind of things. But really, you can't get it all in one cart. Even if you pull two carts, then you look kind of extreme. Three carts, I mean, we're getting more extreme. How many times am I going to go back to Costco? And even then, I mean, I'm just gonna have boring, awful food inside, and I'm gonna want to go outside anyway. I don't know that there's a way to really great way to prepare for this. And so much is dependent on interconnected things. I think it was my friend Ryan was on Facebook recently. He was saying, look at your plate of dinner. You know, look at the vegetables, look at the meat, look at the starch, look at all the things you have. You didn't make this. You know, you didn't grow that plant. You didn't grow that chicken. You didn't. It all came together, and then you only played. He said an economic term. I'm going to screw it up, but he said something like, "It was a marginal cost. He only paid the marginal cost of this food. You didn't even pay the profit. You didn't even pay what it costs to make the food. You pay the average, the marginal. So it is an amazing world, and it would be horrifying if we were cut off from it. Thinking about China with the quarantine, thinking about Japan playing baseball games in front of no audience. It might also happen at the Olympics, the Louvre being closed. There are big things out there that are closing up that you can't replace the Louvre. You know, you can sit at home and Uvas has got 10 bottles of vodka, so you can dream about it. You can read some of the books that I've got and all kinds of things, but you can't replace it. You can't replace people growing crops or making iPhones, the things that we need. So eventually that might tighten up and it might get scary, like the preppers are saying. But also, I mean, other people are mocking the people going to Costco. We've got a great Twitter feed out here in Vegas called @VitalVegas, and he's got all the information, and he's been talking about the Costco thing, but he's been mocking it. He's gonna be like, what do people think is gonna go wrong with our water supply? Like they're gonna dump a bunch of the virus into the water supply or something like that, and you're gonna have to choose bottled water from now on. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But then again, we've
Right.
got.
And
Go ahead, Dan.
well, I mean that's a good example of the water supply, right? Because people stocking up on bottled water, and I'm thinking, okay, if we're truly in a situation where for whatever reason water is no longer coming out of your tap, then that is truly a global catastrophic meltdown situation, right? If we have no water coming to the tap, that means we have no internet. That means we probably don't have any electricity. And you then have to go into full prepper mode. So I think if if there's some idea that at some point we won't have water to the tap, then that means your couple of weeks worth of bottled water is not going to do anything, right? Like there's going to be I saw a news article that there was a run on toilet paper in Seattle, and I'm thinking, okay, like it's one thing if you think that, hey, there might be some of my favorite things, like for example, my cat needs special cat food because of dietary stuff, right? And I was thinking, well, I should get an extra bag of that just in case there's a slowdown in the supply. And I'm kind of thinking I want to have extra of some of my favorite things, so that way if supply chains slow down or there's a pause or a gap, that I'll be able to bridge that gap with some of my favorite stuff. But if you're buying a bag of rice and a bunch of water, it's just like, okay, mentally then you have to say, I am now planning for the end of the world. Because if you think the water and the bag of rice is going to allow you to survive some sort of genuine global catastrophe, you're wrong. It won't. You need a cabin in the woods, and you need to be able to hunt for your own food and stuff. So I just think that it's good to have some level of, even if it's just your own comfort, that's fine to say, hey, I'm going to have some extra bottled water at my house because that makes me feel better and makes me feel more comfortable. But it's really important, in my opinion, to make sure you have perspective. I mean, I get that the virus is scary and stuff, but if you look at the deaths in comparison to the the risks of your day-to-day life, dying of the coronavirus is like you might as well be afraid of getting hit by a lightning bolt or being eaten by sharks, because the math isn't, it's just because the news cycle and because it's not under your control. That's what makes it scary. I could get it from this person or I could get it from that person. I'm Tomorrow I'm meeting people that are flying in from Washington, and I'm thinking, okay, they're flying in from Washington. They're on a giant tube full of recycled air with a bunch of other people from Washington. That doesn't. I'm not going to be shaking their hands. Maybe some of those cautions are good, and I'm going to make sure I wash my hands more, because guess what? Hey, washing your hands more is just a good way to not be sick, regardless of the coronavirus or not. So I don't know. I think it's important to just have a balanced view of the whole thing, and sometimes it's the symptoms that are worse than the cause, because if everybody starts to panic, then everybody starts to panic, and we can see it in the Bitcoin market, right? It's the same mentality. It's the FUD and the FOMO, right? So if FUD happens to the entire world, then it just multiplies on itself and goes downhill fast. So I don't know. I think it's funny how it could potentially be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I also think a lot of this prepper information can go in the wrong way. Like, for example, if you have an earthquake, you do want to have water, because the earthquake could shake the pipes and it could break the
Yeah.
pipe. So there would be a water
Yep.
problem caused by the earthquake. So that's pretty like 1-to-1. Water is good in earthquakes. Same kind of thing for fire. It could wipe out the telephone poles. You don't have telephones. It could wipe out the power lines. You don't have power. It's good to have one of those. Excuse me. It's good to have one of those little crank radios that has a light in it, or have a flashlight, have some extra batteries. These are good things. Like, that'd be useful, and you could even use them later on if there isn't a crisis. So I think that's good advice. But yeah, I do think we go so far, and it is different now with the media. I remember SARS and bird flu and H1N1, which I think is bird flu, and swine flu, and a lot of other these scary things that came out. And at the time, I know I personally was probably too busy to deal with them. I had to go to work. I went to work. I went home. I went to sleep. I went to work the next day. I probably kind of figured at the time, well, at least I'd get some time off if I had to sit in bed and be sick. Somebody else would fix these damn computers. But, but now, being more on this kind of internet lifestyle, kind of unemployed, I have way too much time. I have way too much access to media, and I'm getting way too much information that I can't really do anything with. Like, if the death toll in Washington state goes from 7 to 14, it's horrible. I don't like it when anybody dies. I feel bad, all that, but I really can't do anything. I'm not in Washington state, can't help these people. I'm not a doctor. I'm not working on science or whatever. So all those things. So it might be better to have less information. I know personally I've altered my Twitter feed, and again, censorship or whatever, I'm censoring myself, but I've kind of removed the coronavirus from my Twitter feed. So I can go to Twitter and read about Bitcoin. I can read about whatever else my friends share to me. I don't necessarily need to know all the kind of paranoid rumors that my Twitter followers might follow about the virus. I'm going to get the information eventually. I've deleted Google News from my homepage, but I still keep reading it. The TV's on MSNBC pretty often. I prefer. I wish I could just get the politics news, but they mix that scary virus stuff in there too. Meanwhile, in the chat, let's check it out. Dan Trev's got some advice. He says either he's the son or friends with the son of a CDC director. He says, don't take advice from the public. The virus is something you should be aware of and prepared for. He says that there are thousands of cases in the U.S. and the death rate is underreported. So respect to both sides of this. I do think you need to be prepared. You need to be informed. Nothing, it's not worth hiding this or whatever. I'm not saying push it under the rug. Definitely get some food and water. But then there is kind of an extreme place where people lose their minds over this. And even then, I'm in there too. I'm kind of, canceling my Europe trips. Some of the conferences are getting pushed around. They're moving to other times because they're afraid too. Because this conference idea is a great idea on one hand, right? We get everybody together, we shake hands, we're all pals, we talk about our projects. But then on the other hand, that's exactly how you'd want to spread a virus like this. Get everyone from all over the world in airplanes, bring them to one place, and have them shake hands, drink together, and be buddies. So a lot of the other tech conferences have been canceled at the larger levels, and I could see that coming to Bitcoin as well.
Well, and you're right, because a lot of that does make sense. I think the question is what are, if you're quote unquote preparing, what is it that you're preparing for? I think is really probably the thing that people need to ask themselves. Because if what they're preparing for is some sort of global infrastructure collapse, then you got to get a cabin in the woods somewhere and hunt your own food. If you're preparing for a reduction in the supply chain and saying, hey, I kind of want to make sure I have a little extra of some of these things, that's probably not the worst idea in the world. So it's just like, yeah, if even if this thing is worse than the news is saying, it's like, is it worse than the news is saying? Like, I'm not going to have water to my tap, or is it worse than the news is saying? Like, there's probably going to be more people that get it and die from it than people are saying today. I might want to avoid physical contact with people. You know, like they say I was just reading an article that the people that have died in Washington, I believe most of them are from like one elderly care facility. So part of the problem with taking statistics like this is we have such a small sample set right now. So it's not really fair to say, well, if X number of people have it and X number of people die from it, if we say, for example, if I said, look, 2 people have it and 1 person died from it, that's 50%, man. That means half the population of the world is going to die from this thing. Well, it just turns out that the person that had it was like 100 years old. So sure.
Also, during the crisis in China, they were freaking me out because they were saying things like, this 35-year-old doctor died. And I think, wow, a doctor, he's probably in pretty good physical shape. He knows all about medicine. But what they're not including there is that 35-year-old doctor just worked like 5 16-hour shifts. He's exhausted. He's like working himself to death trying to help these people. So he's not really just a 35-year-old doctor. He's a heavily overworked 35-year-old doctor. So he is weaker than you'd think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so, like I say, I think it's good to be cautious. I think it's good to probably limit your physical contact. Like, do all of the common sense kind of things. Wash your hands more, that kind of stuff. But again, if people are totally freaked out and they're starting to think that, well, I have to prep, then they really need to ask themselves, what are they prepping for? And for me, like I say, probably going to get an extra bag of cat food, just to make sure, like, if we see a slowdown in supply chain, which I would be shocked if we didn't, then yeah, those things are probably a good idea. You know, what did I say? Get an extra month's supply of any critical medication that you need. That's probably a good idea too. But to kind of really get this in your gut and say, we're not going to have fresh water to our taps, you just, I think you're in a whole different realm of prepping at that point. And a couple of weeks of fresh water in your refrigerator, you are not going to survive a global infrastructure meltdown with a couple extra weeks of fresh water in your fridge. So,
well, and the real ways to survive this is just to be healthy in general. to work
Yeah.
on things like fasting and meditation that can give you strength during difficult times, to practice, to read. I mean, even I mean, it's just a book, but I mean, Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, been on the Joe Rogan show a lot, does podcasts. Even just reading some books like this, getting your mind in the right shape for this survival, if you really think that we're going to that, would be a good idea. They're saying in the chat that you should have some cash on hand to pay for medical bills, but then people are pushing back and they're saying that cash is not very valuable. It might be better to have goods. And I know I've said this a lot, and now it's terrifyingly coming home to roost. But in the future, the things you might want to have on hand are toilet paper rolls and little small bottles of whiskey, so that you can negotiate and you can trade with people, and they don't think that you have a huge bottle of whiskey at home or one of those really big toilet paper rolls. So I think
Right.
having
But
goods. Go ahead.
well, see, again, it's like, okay, if we're talking about a world where small bottles of whiskey, like I try to imagine in my head, okay, what world are we living in where you're trading small bottles of whiskeys for the goods that you need? Like, is there going to be some sort of community flea market where you go down there and you say, hey, here's 2 bottles, I need some, you know what I mean? Like, this is a Mad Max world where you're saying small bottles of whiskey are going to be more valuable than cash.
Unless
And
unless they have swords.
unless they have swords, right? So again, like, uh, if you're prepping for a Mad Max world and saying, like, I don't know, I just think to myself, uh, even let's say my worst case scenario would be a 1920s style depression. And even in that worst of times, if you had a handful of bills, you could get stuff for it, you know? So to start stashing away things that you can barter with, assuming that cash is going to have no value, well, yeah, then guess what? You're now living in a world where you better have guns as well, because you're going to have rogue bands of criminals like attacking homes. Like, what? I that that's not really a world that I see why the fear is so prevalent in people, because it is big and scary. It's a large, scary consequence of something. At the same time, I just think, hey, if we're living in a world where you need the small bottles of whiskey to survive and have the things that you want, how many bottles of whiskey are you gonna get? You're gonna get a week's supply, a month's supply, a year's supply? Because if that's the world we're living in, then having a big box of those isn't going to get you very
Well, and even then, you're going to need the guns or whatever to just to protect your whiskey stash.
far.
And
Right.
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the Mormon Church has an official policy on food storage, and all of the Mormons have food in their houses, and there's presumably lots of food in their churches. And I'm not the only one who knows this, and they haven't done a very good job keeping it quiet or secret. So in the future, if people want food, that's probably where they're going to go. It's a good
Well,
idea
and I
for
guess
them,
the
though.
question is, for how long?
Yeah, exactly.
How
Yeah, I
how
think a
long do
month,
those last?
2 months. I mean, I don't think they have more
Right.
than. It's unreasonable, the supply, the space, the cost of maintaining these supplies. I mean, if you really look into the prepper thing from an economic standpoint, you're gonna spend all your money on things that you can't use. Even my house has already
Yeah.
started. I've got all these like dried foods or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I want to eat those. But then I'm like, no, I should wait till the crisis to eat those. And I'm like, but how will I
Right.
know it's a crisis and I can't go outside anymore ever? So that's not
Right.
great. Like,
And you have these uh, wild groups of bandits wandering around. Like, okay. um, and like I say, that is smart. What you talked about earlier, that's smart from a local catastrophe kind of thing, right? So if you have an earthquake or a forest fire or a tornado, hurricane, stuff like that, hey, have a week or two or even a month of supply until rescue can get to you. That totally makes sense. If there is no rescue to get to you, if no one's going to come and say, "Hey, we're gonna help you out of this catastrophe," then your 2 weeks of supply, yeah, might get you over the hump for the first 2 weeks, but then you're just as screwed as everybody else after that. And I don't know. I just think that unless you're going to go all the way, going halfway doesn't make sense with those kinds of things. Yes, plan for a reduction in some flows of supply. But like I say, if you're planning for an infrastructure meltdown, you kind of have to go full prepper or not. I don't see an in between there.
The other thing about this virus is, in a normal disaster, you could help your neighbors. You could be like, please come over. We've got food. We've got
Right,
shelter. I don't think you're sick or whatever. The earthquake didn't make you sick.
right,
Now we basically don't trust our neighbors. Like, what if our neighbors are sick? Or like you're saying, what if someone just visited from Asia or from Hong Kong? I
hmm
had a friend of mine in the house, and she just visited from Asia. And I'm sure she's fine and all that, but still, the back of your head's like, oh no, what did she touch? We need
right.
to clean all these things, blah blah blah, and it's
You want to
nonsense.
Purell the whole house.
Yeah, yeah, and it's totally nonsense. And you can't see the virus. I don't have virus glasses I could put on that would help me, get rid of it or whatever. And I don't think my friend's sick anyway. But and they're doing these same things to her. She couldn't fly back through South Korea. They had it closed up. They put her in quarantine in the Philippines. I mean, and again, just because she's from Hong Kong, which is,
Right.
we're judging people by where they're from and all those kind of things, and not the content of their character and so forth. But yeah, and it does that to it. The virus, it gets in your head. You're afraid of it. It's not
Yeah.
just a person. It could be a person with the virus. So
Well, and again, I think too that fear comes from being so out of control. People that are afraid to fly, they can just not fly. People that are afraid of some unknown invisible virus coming from potentially anywhere, no matter what you do, that gets really scary because you don't have any control over it. It's kind of like the difference between um, being a driver and being a passenger. And when you're a driver, regardless of the risk that you're taking, you feel at least you have control over the situation. And when you're a passenger, it's a little more scary because you're just along for the ride, and whatever happens, quote unquote, isn't your fault. So that makes things a little bit more scary too. But I would just say, the wisest piece of philosophy comes from what is it, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, where he says, begin with the end in mind. So if you're feeling like you need extra toilet paper or extra water or whatever, I would say figure out why you want those things. If you want those things because it makes you feel more comfortable in a scary situation, then do it. Go for it. If you want those things because you think it will help you survive some infrastructure meltdown, then I would say take a second look at that, because again, 2 weeks of supplies with a major infrastructure meltdown is going to get you nowhere. We're talking again Mad Max kind of stuff, right? So then guns, ammo, liquor, stuff like that, which I think is the funniest thing, right? In some sort of Mad Max world, the most valuable thing you can have are small bottles of liquor. So I guess that says something about human nature, right?
people want it. In prison, the most valuable thing, even today, is cigarettes. You can trade a pack of
Yeah,
cigarettes even to someone who doesn't smoke. They know that there's value inside there. It's a luxury product. People are addicted to it in certain ways. Yeah, it's a
right.
good thing to have.
I guess in that case, it becomes a commodity instead of just for consumption.
I think we're getting close to it. But thanks so much for the call, Dan.
All
Hopefully,
right.
we didn't freak
Yeah.
out too many people. It's still, I agree with you. I did my Costco run. I feel better. I kind of want to do another Costco run, but I don't really know what it's for. I'm just going to buy more random things that I'm probably never going to eat. So,
Well, and like I say, if it makes you feel more comfortable, then that's a good thing too. So it's not bad to do it. It's just, again, kind of begin with the end in mind. So hey, I'm sorry I took up so much time. I just had a lot to say, I guess. So I love the new format. I love the new show. And I don't know if you saw my comment from yesterday. I just happened to be looking at my YouTube feed, and this show just happened to pop up. So I don't know if you're going to be on a regular schedule where we can say, "Oh yeah, the Thomas Hunt show is on. I want to make sure to jump on." But I think that would be pretty cool.
yeah,
So
right now, don't really have a schedule for this. I've tried doing schedules before. It's pretty good. It's good for the callers, definitely. But it also makes it more like I have to do the show during a certain time, then I have to show up and all
right,
those things. Whereas
yeah,
this is more random. I'd say, yeah, keep an eye on the Mad Bitcoin's Twitter feed. It should be up there, World Crypto Network Twitter feed. You can get the notifications on YouTube. That's a good way to track it. The other goal is just maybe there'll be more of these shows, so you always find an old one to listen to. Also, for people at home, if you don't want to call in or if it's at a different time zone, you can always call in and leave a voicemail, or you can send us a text to Skype or to the phone number, and we can try to read those on the air the next day. So there are ways to communicate even if you're in a different time zone. So.
well, I appreciate the conversation, and I guess I'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thanks so much. Give us a call anytime,
Thanks, Thomas.
Dan. Thank you. All right. And I think we're going to head towards the end of the show here. We did about an hour long show. That's pretty much what we're going for. And just trying to get the news out there about Bitcoin. We talked a little bit about the price. It's down just a little bit. Talked about Biden winning a big last night in Super Tuesday, taking down Bernie Sanders. Talked about India now is going to allow cryptocurrency trading. This is great news. Congratulations to India. We talked about HTC's full new 5G router that hosts a Bitcoin node inside it. This is great progress. A major company like HTC, including Bitcoin. We checked out yesterday's comments and yesterday's chat. We checked out our fundraiser towards $1 million. We're still working our way there. And Bitcoin hitting 135,000. 135,000 would be common sense, according to Willy Woo, the trader. The price fell after a volume spike. Uphold lets you spend on a debit card. And the price. Thanks to everybody for joining us in the chat. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Subscribe down below. Hit the bell for notifications. Check out Twitter at WorldCryptoNet or at Mad Bitcoins. We got notifications on there too. As they're saying, liquor could be used as an antiseptic, good for disinfecting, and that water used to make people sick, so they drank liquor or beer or mead instead. Very true. And maybe, like Dan was saying, we have to learn how to make our own liquor if we really want to be self-sufficient. But then you're making your own iPhone and you're making your own video screen and all this stuff. It kind of falls apart at a certain point. Something about specialization. But thanks so much for joining us on the Thomas Hunt Show. Until next time, bye-bye. Oh, and a shout out to HODL Caps. Gave me my new cap here. It says HODL somewhere over here. Got kind of a military camo thing. HODL Caps. Check that out on Twitter or maybe at hodlcaps.com, I think. Thanks so much.